ICJ. Today, as Prime Minister of Lebanon, he finds himself sometimes arguing with members of his own cabinet, international creditors, sometimes even the authorities behind the country's electricity grid, often all in the same day. And trust me, if you know Lebanon, you'll know what I'm saying. He always does it with the calm and the unshakable poise of the seasoned diplomat he is. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Dr. Nawaf Salam, who will be joined by Greg Carlstrom, Middle East correspondent for The Economist.
Thank you, Rida, for that introduction, and thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for being here. We only have 20 minutes, and with Lebanon, there's much more than 20 minutes worth of conversation to have. So we're going to jump right in. Welcome. Thank you for being here. The first question I want to ask is about the topic that has been on everyone's mind in Lebanon in recent weeks, which is the fear of another war, the fear that Israel might start another large-scale campaign of military strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. As the Prime Minister of Lebanon, how worried are you about that?
Well, first of all, let's admit that we are in a situation of what I would call a war of attrition. By one side, Israel, so we are, not in a peaceful situation today. It's conducted by one side, by Israel, while we should have been in a situation of cessation of hostilities, because a year ago, Lebanon and Israel, under the auspices of France and the United States of America, agreed to what has since then been referred to as the announcement of cessation of hostilities, which unfortunately has not been abided to by Israel. First, because there has been no cessation of hostilities on Israel's part. Israel continues to occupy a number of points in Lebanon and still on the number of Lebanese quote-unquote prisoners, and I think we are, the theme of the Doha Forum this year is justice in action, and the opposite of justice is self-help. So, and by self-help I mean one acting independently to redress what it considers to be a wrongdoing, and unfortunately this is what Israel is doing instead of abiding by what it agreed to, the Accord of Cessation of Hostilities.
So you make a good point, which is that agreeing to a ceasefire is one thing, implementing it is another thing, and we're seeing that now in Gaza as well. You gave a briefing to some journalists in Lebanon last week, and you said that you're confident Hezbollah will eventually agree to relinquish its arms, to put them under the authority of the state, because they agreed to that principle in the ceasefire agreement last year. But how do you actually implement that part of the agreement?
I think everyone, should be held accountable to what they agreed to. Hezbollah agreed to the announcement of cessation of hostilities, which clearly, its preamble lists the 6 and only 6 actors who can carry arms in Lebanon. Hezbollah is not among them. Security Council Resolution 1701, to which all Lebanese parties have agreed to and call for its implementation, also calls for a demilitarized zone south of the Litani. This should not be put in question. And way before Security Council Resolution 1701, the Lebanese, I mean, when they agreed to put an end to their war, they signed on an instrument known as the Taif agreement, which clearly specifies for the monopoly of arms, state monopoly of arms. And so that's not something new. I mean, that's part of the cessation of hostilities agreement, over and above our government in its ministerial declaration reaffirmed Lebanon's commitment to Security Council Resolution 1701, reaffirmed Lebanon's commitment to the Accord of Cessation of Hostilities, and reaffirms Lebanon's commitment to having, I mean, the issues of war and peace under the sole authority of the government of Lebanon, and Hezbollah, like any other Lebanese party who agreed to this instrument, will have to abide by.
So you have all of those agreements, as you say, that have not been implemented until now. What makes you think that Hezbollah will agree to implement them now, and what's the mechanism by which you do that? I mean, Tom Barak, for example, the US ambassador in Turkey, has talked about trying to raise money from Gulf countries to invest in South Lebanon as an inducement for Hezbollah to disarm. Do you think that's something that is practical or workable?
Well, first of all, this famous announcement of cessation of hostilities provided for a pentalateral, as we call it, mechanism, including the two.
I think, sorry, if you could maybe just hold the microphone a little bit closer.
So a pentalateral mechanism, including the two sponsors of the agreement, the USA, France, Lebanon, the United Nations, and Israel. So this framework is in charge of the implementation of this agreement. Now, I know, I mean, that there have been some question marks about not only the implementation, but how, I mean, what could verify the implementation in southern Litani, which is the first phase of the plan the army presented to the government, which was welcomed by the government, and which provides for a full monopoly of arms in southern Litani and north Litani in the first phase, that is till the end of the year, or which the first would have to end by the end of the year, a containment of arms in the rest of the country. Now, what is being discussed, how this framework, I mean, referred to or known as the mechanism in Lebanon, will start verifying on the ground with the army that such decisions are being implemented.
There's a common complaint about America when I talk to both Lebanese and Syrian officials, that they are putting a lot of pressure on Lebanon and Syria. They are not putting any pressure on the Israeli government to make concessions, territorial concessions or other concessions towards your country and towards Syria as well. In your conversations with the Americans, what have they said about if phase one of this disarmament plan is completed by the end of the year? Are they prepared to pressure Israel to withdraw from these 5 points in Lebanon, or to pressure Israel otherwise?
Well, we don't need, I mean, to wait till the end of the year. I mean, Israel was supposed to have withdrawn, I mean, from all of the Lebanese territory. It occupied 10 months ago. Unfortunately, it didn't do that. Israel was supposed to cease all hostilities 10 months ago, and it didn't do that. And in my discussions, I mean, with the American diplomats who visited us, I have always asked the question, I mean, about the relevance, if there were any military security relevance to the points Israel continues to occupy in Lebanon. Unfortunately, I mean, no one was able to convince me that these points have any relevance in the age of satellite imagery, in the age of drones equipped with the most sophisticated cameras, in the age of balloons, I mean, monitoring the border between Lebanon and Israel. We are not, I mean, in 1914, 1915, 1916, World War I, where you need to be on top of a 600 or 700 meter hill to monitor what's around you. So, I mean, believe me, but no one was able, I don't know, I mean, if you will be able to convince me that these points, I mean, have any strategic, military, or security value. So that was my first point. And two, on our side, I mean, save one incident of rockets that were fired from Lebanon by elements who were identified as members of Hamas. Not one single bullet was fired from Lebanon. While, I mean, Israel continue violating Lebanese sovereignty on almost a daily basis.
I want to turn to the economy for a few minutes. One of the most important jobs for your government is to pass what's known as the GAP law, which is a law to apportion the losses in the Lebanese financial sector. Without that, there can be no IMF program, there can be no large-scale investment. You said in an interview with Bloomberg last month that the law would be in front of the cabinet by mid-December. It's December 7th. Will you meet that deadline?
Okay, the question of reforms is one of the two pillars, I mean, of the agenda of our government. The first, obviously, is regaining Lebanon's sovereignty, ensuring that the state has monopoly of arms over all its territory, and which is the subject of the plan that the army was tasked to present to the government, and which we welcomed, and now monitoring its implementation on a monthly basis, because we required, I mean, the army to come before the government and present a monthly progress report. The second pillar is reforms. Indeed, because of the financial crisis, which was followed by an economic crisis and which turned into a social crisis, the question of financial reforms appears to come first, while our reform agenda was not limited to financial reform. It included the need for an administrative reform, and we started by adopting a new mechanism for civil service appointments. We worked on a draft law to strengthen the independence of the judiciary, which all, I mean, is necessary to rebuild the state. And now, I mean, we are getting to what you referred to, or what is known as the GAP law, which will apportion the losses. But before that, I mean, we had to work on a law to waive the bank secrecy, which at one point in time, that's 40, 50 years ago, helped attract Arab fund, I mean, that were after the nationalizations in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, it attracted these monies to, or had attracted these monies to Lebanon. Now, unfortunately, this the bank secrecy law turned it into a curse to Lebanon because it was used and abused as a means to cover all forms of money laundering, money related to trade of drugs and other illicit so we passed this law. Two, we passed a law on bank resolution to address situation of financial crisis and bank crisis. And now, I mean, the third element of this architecture is the law. It's not only on the repartition of losses, but it's also the law that will provide for the mechanism that will allow depositors to have access to their blocked accounts. Well, I hope that, okay, give me a leeway of a week or so, but before the end of this month, whether on the 15th or 15th plus a couple of days, I'll be able to put before the government a draft law that will address both, I mean, the repartition of losses and giving depositors for the first time in 6 years the possibility of having access to their blocked accounts.
And then that law has to go through.
And then that law will have to be, I mean, discussed in the government, whether adopted as is or with amendments, and then it will have to go to Parliament and hopefully be passed in Parliament.
And
that's where this will no longer be our job. I mean,
that's where it becomes a fight, right? Because when I've spoken with IMF officials, for example, they've said when they meet Lebanese MPs, some of them, they still have arguments about should the bank shareholders be the ones who bear the brunt of the losses or should depositors bear the brunt. The IMF wants it to be the bank shareholders, but there are some Lebanese MPs who are connected to the banking sector who want to put the pain on depositors. Do you think Parliament, after so many years of
definitely, I mean, the banks will have to bear their part of responsibility. But again, I mean, one will have to distinguish between the depositors. Not all depositors are equal. I mean, there are quote unquote what I would like to call illegal, not illegal depositor, but I mean depositors who deposit illegal monies coming from drug trafficking or money laundering, and definitely the state, I mean, will have also, I mean, it will have its share and be responsible for its share in the reporting of losses. Now, I mean, in our part of the job is to have, I mean, this draft law passed in government. Hopefully, it will be able to do so before the end of the year. Beyond that, I mean, it'll become the responsibility of Parliament.
Speaker Berry's responsibility at that point. We only have 2 minutes left. I want to ask you quickly about your relationship with the President, Joseph Aoun. You have very different timetables. The President still has 5 years left in his term. You have elections coming up perhaps in 5 months. I was in Washington a few weeks ago and I heard some criticism of the President for not moving quickly enough on both security and economic issues in Lebanon. Do you agree with that? Do you think Lebanon needs to be moving faster on some things than it has been this year?
Well, trust that my conviction that, I mean, the President and myself are going in the same direction. Both of us, I mean, would like reforms to be implemented. and as possible. Both of us would like, to see the state have a full monopoly of arms. But after all, we come from different backgrounds, and we have different styles in addressing issues. But my conviction is that we are, both of us, maybe not at the same speed, but going in the same direction.
And last question, there are meant to be elections in Lebanon in the spring. Will they happen on schedule? And then what do they mean for you, for your political future? Do you want another term as Prime Minister?
Well, actually, as far as my government is concerned, we are committed to holding parliamentary elections on schedule. The day the same way that we were able to or were to have municipal elections and on schedule. And we are preparing, and actually that's true, we started preparing for holding these elections in May. And
what about you? Would you like to serve another term as Prime Minister?
Well, let us finish, this term first, and then it will depend on the new parliament, not on my wishes.
Let's see if we're back here next year again. Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Greg, for touching on so many important issues and challenges, not just for Lebanon, but for the wider Middle East region as well. Now, we will go straight into our next session, which is a newsmaker interview as well, with someone who is no stranger to big challenges.